And a good Sunday night, everyone. Thanks for joining for this Tropics After Dark. Of course, we are tracking Tropical Storm Nicholas out there in the Gulf of Mexico. Good evening, everyone. Angel, good to see you on here. Good evening. Let's see. Jessica, no, that's how we all feel right now. I was hoping to not have to do these updates for a little while at least. It's been about 2 weeks almost now, or 2 weeks to the day actually. Wow, that Ida had made landfall in southeast Louisiana. Still a lot of people recovering from that. And like I said in one of the posts, no rest for the weary, right? We're still going at it. And there's still a lot of season left to go. So right now, this is just the latest in what we're tracking right now. Tropical Storm Nicholas out there in the Gulf of Mexico. How you doing, Tanya? JJ, yes, your fans gonna work. I know this one's gonna be a little bit tougher. The ones in the the ones recently, your fans have been working a little bit to keep it away from Texas. This one may be a little bit closer to you, man. We'll have to see of it. Tracy, good to see you on here as well, watching from Beaumont, Gale. Thanks for joining. Yep, Miranda, back so soon. Again, right? Back too soon. Only been 2 weeks since Ida hit. Probably we understand that, right? And it can't take any more. A lot of repairs still happening. A lot of tarps in Louisiana still right now, and roof damage. We don't need the rain in Louisiana. We certainly don't need another hurricane in the Gulf, and hopefully that will not be the case. Now, let's talk about what's happening with Nicholas tonight, okay? Because what I've told y'all with pretty much every storm that we see, for the past years, is when you have a storm in a developmental stage like this, there's a lot of different plot twists that can happen early on. In the beginning stages, you certainly, you seem to lock in a little bit once we have a low-level center, and then at the end, like I mentioned with Ida, there's a little more plot twists that can happen when you get closer to landfall, and we certainly saw that. So right now, we've seen the center relocate a little bit earlier. We see it relocating to the north a little bit earlier. Now, at the latest update, the National Hurricane Center says that we've seen a shift back to the south, or a center relocation back to the south a little bit. Basically, point is that they don't really have a good grasp of where the actual center of circulation even is right now. So let me just tell you that straight up. There's just not a really well-defined low-level circulation currently. And what the National Hurricane Center said as of the discussion is that the center is still not very well-defined. It appears to have reformed again, this time further south, or farther south. And they're just kind of estimating the winds to still be near 40 miles per hour. Now, one of the things, like I showed you on the page earlier, is that this storm is moving into warm waters, right? This is a part of the Gulf that's relatively untapped. It's very warm in this area. I have this open. Let me see if I can find it. There you go. So, Ida had a little bit of upwelling that happened in the Gulf. But even so, even around where Ida came through, we're still looking at pretty warm water. I got the green color tonight. Okay, we'll keep green for tonight. I don't know how it got that way, but we'll roll with the green marker tonight. All right, so anyway, there's a pocket of warm water in this area where Nicholas is going to be moving. So like I've told y'all in the past, if warm water was just the thing that we worry about with these storms, it would have a lot of ability to intensify. But remember, you don't get these huge storms like Ida every time something forms, because you need more than just warm water. You need warm water, you need low-level shear, you need dry air to not be an issue, land interaction. So there's a lot of different things that go into this. So the water's warm enough, that's not an issue. However, this storm is dealing with some wind shear right now, and we want it to continue to deal with some wind shear, because as long as the wind shear, remember, wind shear affects storms in the developmental stages a lot more than storms that are already well formed. So as this thing's trying to get its act together, it's struggling a little bit right now, and that's a good thing. We don't want it to, strengthen very quickly. Now the reason is, if you look over here, there's a big upper level low in that direction. You can see the spin there, and it's what it's doing is it's actually has some of this shear, and it's pushing everything off to the north right now on this storm. So as you're looking at the satellite picture, you're saying, that's a big bubble up of convection around the center of circulation there, right? Well, that's what it would appear to look like, but that is not actually what's happening. And let me find the image here, because there's a look at where the National Hurricane Center, or where this is where they have the plot, right? The center is somewhere here, but look at where all the mess is located, right? Well displaced from the center of circulation. So this storm is dealing with some shear. So it would appear that the center is higher up right now, but it's actually not. It's south and getting sheared up to the north. So keep that in mind. If this thing does stay sheared, a lot of the action from this thing as far as rainfall goes could be well displaced north and east of where the center goes in. But I got to tell y'all, this is a complicated forecast for this storm because there are a lot of variables happening here. And this is not an easy one. Ida was, there are some storms to me, when I saw Ida coming in, it was to me a straightforward forecast that this thing was going to blow up, right? Ida. And there wasn't much deviation there. This one's tricky. And I'm going to tell you why it's tricky here, because there's a lot of different elements. Now, first of all, you got this low here causing some shear. How long is that going to last? Is the storm going to come in landfall earlier? And if it did, that's going to help to weaken things and it won't get as strong. However, if it stays over water longer, then it might be able to strengthen a little bit if the shear lets up. But right now, the wind shear is doing a number on it, and the National Hurricane Center even noted that wind shear could be an issue the entire way. So we hope that's the case. We're not going to get out of the rainfall, but we hope it's the case that that we don't get strengthening from this thing. Warm water obviously is out there, but the shear could be an issue the entire way. And let me show you some models here, because I do have some things open here to kind of show y'all. So just bear with me. I got a few images to show y'all and just some different scenarios. And we'll talk about the rainfall and different landfall surge. A lot of stuff to talk about with this system, because even though it might just be a tropical, a tropical storm, we could see some issues with this, right? We've seen rainfall be an issue even with storms that don't become a hurricane and stay a tropical, just a tropical storm. So this red, by the way, this red area is a look at, if you see the reds and the yellows on there, that's the higher wind shear, right? We want to see wind shear, and the green ones and the blues are lower wind shear. So right now it's in an area of some pretty decent shear. And you can see, these winds are kind of coming out of this direction here to the northwest and shearing it there. But watch as we push this forward a little bit. It might have some time where the shear is located more to the north of the system coming in this direction. And there may be a pocket by tomorrow evening or early on Tuesday where it does have a chance to strengthen a little bit. But we're not seeing a very deep strengthening, or a strengthening that happens rapidly, because there is going to be some shear knocking on it the entire time. This is not a Ida situation where it's going to get under a dome. It's going to have a clear path to the Gulf and be able to blossom. That's not the case with this one. It's going to be dealing with some shear, and it's going to be very close to land at this point. And even when it gets closer to land, notice the shear starts knocking on it, and this is by Tuesday morning and afternoon. And now at this point, notice where the shear is. It's pushing things in this direction. So let me tell you what might happen. As we get into landfall somewhere along the Texas coast, we might see all the rainfall being deflected this way. And so a lot of the rain might actually happen in Louisiana as the storm is making landfall in Texas. That's something we need to watch for, as this thing could be dealing with the shear along, right? I'm getting kind of technical here, but this kind of verifies that as well. The blue areas are the moist areas in the Gulf, and the drier air is right there. You can look at this and go back to this model and see that it's pretty accurate, right? You see those gold colors? That's the dry air. And the green colors are the moisture regions, right? So going back to this map, you can kind of see what we're looking at here. Let me find it. So watch as we move forward here. And, it gets into a nice little envelope of moisture. And the GFS does indicate that it starts to strengthen here as it moves toward the Texas coast. Not much. Maybe a 60 to 65 mile per hour tropical storm. Could it get to Cat 1 hurricane? Certainly wouldn't rule it out, although it's not in the forecast right now. That could happen. So keep that in mind as it approaches the Texas coast. Now, at the end of it, after it makes landfall, or maybe it's still offshore at this point, the point is, watch what happens here, right? Look at the dry air on the left side of the system versus all of this on the right side of the system, right? You see where it's going to kind of be stacked? This system's going to be stacked off to the north and the east of the system. So that's where we're expecting the majority of the rainfall to fall here. And depending on where it goes, right? I mean, you can see this, right? This is Tuesday night. Dry air on the left, all the moisture here to the east. And this moisture could actually stretch as far east as like Mississippi, Alabama, and the Florida Panhandle. So this is an interesting one. We got to watch this as we move in to see how this is actually going to set up. Now, as far as the cone, let's take a look at the cone right now. And this is the latest cone as of 10 p.m. The coordinates right now, and by the way, it is moving north. And look, this is just an estimate. The National Hurricane Center really admitted in their discussion that they really don't know where the center circulation is right now. In so many words, they kind of said that. It's just erratic, and it's not very well formed. And so they just really don't know that right now. So, but right now they're plotting it, and they're saying it's moving north at about 2 miles per hour. It's not moving quickly right now. It's not going to be a fast mover the entire time, but this is a look at where they have it right now. And notice, by the way, this was the 4 p.m. location, if you can see that. And then this is the 10 p.m. location. So they're having troubles. I mean, you can see where the 4 p.m. location was, and they actually have it plotted much farther to the south now. So just to kind of show you the difficulty that they're having even locating a well-defined center. So again, it's still in the developmental stages, so it's not a very well-formed system. But here's the latest cone. It did shift east a little bit at the end, and I'll show you that in a second. I figured that might happen with the models that we saw coming in. But as it goes in now, they have it about 50 miles per hour. This is, was that tomorrow? Okay, so this is tomorrow at 7 a.m. So interesting here is they have it moving north-northwest at 20 miles per hour at this point at 7 a.m. tomorrow. So that's going to be interesting to see how that evolves and if that actually does verify. I didn't even notice this until now. But they do have the motion at 20 miles per hour. So right now it's sitting at 2, barely moving, and they have this thing speeding up to 20 by tomorrow morning. So let's see if that verifies by tomorrow. It's the 7 a.m. update. But anyway, this is where it's supposed to be tomorrow at 7 a.m., moving pretty quickly to north-northwest. Now, at some point, and notice the official track does not take it inland at this point, the center line. Now, if it would take the western part of the line, yeah, it might make landfall in Corpus Christi, right? As early as maybe late tomorrow night, if it would take the western portion of this line. But if it doesn't and it stays offshore, this is a look at where, and again, this is if it would take the center line, the westernmost portion of the cone. And this plot right here is 7 a.m. on Tuesday morning. And they have the biggest intensity for the storm getting up to 65 miles per hour. So they do not officially have it becoming a hurricane. Although that is still could happen, especially if it stays offshore a little bit more and doesn't make landfall. The longer it stays over water, obviously, the more likely it would be that it could become a Category 1 hurricane. I certainly wouldn't take that off the table at this point. But they have it potentially making landfall in the morning time on Tuesday, and this would be at 7 a.m. As far west here, going through like Port Aransas up to Victoria, but their center line is located where, like, let's see, what's the closest one? Like, what is this one? Matagorda Bay? Like, just east of Matagorda Bay, and then moving through Houston potentially by 7 p.m. on Tuesday, right? And that's what if it would take the center line. However, you remember, it could take the west, it could go center, but it could also go east. And again, this is important with storms like Ida and other ones that we've had in the past, that the cone is just the cone, right? It doesn't officially say, hey, it's going to go over the center line. It can go west, it can go east. And until this thing has a well-defined center, I wouldn't take any scenario off the table right now. So it could take the center, but look at how this track has shifted here. And again, not a likely scenario, but you see the different options here. This is not in any way settled at this point as far as what we're looking at for a landfall. I mean, we're talking as far west as Corpus Christi for a landfall, somewhere around here, Matagorda Bay, and then if it would take the eastern track, right? I mean, it could take something like this and hit Galveston, or it could stay offshore and start bending this way and go toward Louisiana. So there's a lot of different scenarios still in play here, especially toward the end of the forecast. And as this thing keeps on reforming and all, and it hasn't got itself really well defined yet, the models are still just showing, where, and again, this is another thing to consider here. As we look at the latest models, let me find them. These were the ones that were used for the 10 p.m. cone. But notice where the initialization points are down there. And, there's like 2 circles. So we're actually, and then is this even accurate as of the new south line that the National Hurricane Center said? I'm not even sure about that, honestly, to be honest. So how serious can we take these models, right? I mean, they ran this off of where they thought the plot was, but the National Hurricane Center says the plot is farther south. So what is that going to do to the track? It remains to be seen at this point, because it's just so darn disorganized right now, and the center line keeps on shifting a bit. So lots can still happen with this, especially toward the end of the track. Now, that is going to be important because, the biggest threat with this, we're going to have some surge, by the way, from this right now. And look, I can't tell you exactly where this thing's going right now. If I told you I could, and if anybody could tell you they could, they're probably lying to you. But what I can tell you is the different effects that we could see, especially first and foremost surge. And this is important because we're going to have a slow-moving system, right? No matter where this thing goes, even if it makes landfall here or, stays out here, somewhere there. Remember, wherever the center is, you're still going to have that push of water coming in this direction around the counterclockwise flow, right? And it's going to be a slow mover. So we're going to get a pileup of water happening. And what we can see here are some surge amounts estimated from the National Hurricane Center, 2 to 4 feet down from Brownsville up to Port O'Connor. We got 3 to 5 feet from Port O'Connor. And then starting around Galveston, even having about 2 to 4 feet as well, 1 to 3 feet going over there toward the Louisiana coast, stretching over toward Vermilion Bay. So surge, we're going to have water rise, and there's storm surge warnings that have been issued because of that. Remember, a slow-moving center is going to push water onshore. We're going to have a slow-moving center. We're going to have that persistent onshore flow coming from the east, pushing the water onshore. So we will have water rise associated with this system, so do not forget that. And along with water rise, and this could be the most concerning thing that we need to watch out for, is going to be the potential for rainfall. Okay, and it becomes important where the center comes in, because remember, the rain is going to be in and around the center and to the east of it, right? If you look at this, considers a track probably somewhere like this, right? So notice where the bullseye would be, just to the east of the center and stretching even as far eastward there through Acadiana into Louisiana. And these amounts are pretty big, right? I mean, we're looking at these little pockets here, and again, these are not exact. These could be a little bit west, a little bit east, a little bit north. But those pink areas indicate 15 to 20 inches of rainfall. I've seen the European model indicate even higher. I've seen 30 inches of rainfall predicted in some spots from the European model. So, the point is that we could have areas that get way too much rainfall and deal with flash flooding. We could see, it's not just me saying this. The National Hurricane Center says urban and flash flooding is possible, and river flooding is also possible depending on who gets the heaviest of the rainfall. Is this going to be another Harvey? I see people asking that. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell at this point. It's coming in. Remember, Harvey was coming in kind of, from the east, coming in, hit Rockport. This is coming in from the south and kind of bending northeast. So it's a little bit of a different direction. So it's hard to say if it's going to be another Harvey. I mean, I would never predict it's going to be another Harvey. If I remember right, places in Harvey got like in excess of 60 inches in some spots. So again, can't predict that right now, but I can tell you that this has the potential to drop a lot of rainfall, and hopefully, maybe, just maybe, this, the center might be able to stay offshore, and hopefully it doesn't strengthen a lot. But if we can keep the biggest rain totals offshore, that would be great. That's not a guarantee at this point, as we do have pretty decent numbers predicted, and because of that. And notice I think this kind of goes into the uncertainty with the system and who's going to see the biggest rainfall, because they basically put flash flood watches along the entire coast of Texas into Louisiana, approaching the Lafayette area there. They just don't know at this point, and I'll admit it, I don't know either where most of the rainfall is going to fall, but there's going to be a lot of rainfall that falls with this, and we can kind of look at the, if I go back to the track that we were looking at there, and kind of put on the radar here. Let me show you. And I can put this track on, but there's a lot of rain out there associated with this system, right? I mean, you can see it there. There's a lot of rain. It's moving at 2 miles per hour right now. And as it moves to the north, remember, we're going to see a slowdown happen as it moves in this direction. And you can see that indicated by the track here, right? So this is around 7 a.m. on Tuesday. This is 7 p.m. That's 12 hours later. Notice how it slows down. This is 7 a.m. on Wednesday morning. So it's gone from here to here on Wednesday morning. And here's a look at 7 p.m. on Wednesday evening. And then up here by the 16th, which would be, what is that? Is that Thursday evening at 7 p.m.? So you're seeing the slowdown here that happens because it's going to lose steering at that point, and it's going to kind of be left behind a bit. And so we could see a very slow-moving system dropping rainfall. Where will it happen? Hard to tell right now. This is one of those things where we got to fine-tune those details as we move in a little bit, right? Kind of like we do with a lot of tropical systems. As we get closer to landfall, we really see where the heaviest of those bands are going to set up. It's hard to do it right now because we just don't really know where the center is currently, and we don't really know if this thing's going to make landfall and where it's going to make landfall. Remember, shifts 20 or 30 miles. The margin for error is is not very large. I mean, you can see it with Ida, right? We got placed. New Orleans was not. Ida was not a New Orleans storm. New Orleans took some damage from it, but you go 5 miles to the west, 5 miles to the west again. I mean, my area, Kenner, that it was blasted by Ida. A little bit to the east around Metairie and going into New Orleans, they got some damage, but it's nothing like Kenner in places southwest, right? I mean, so the margin for error is small with these systems, and especially when we get rainfall amounts. Remember, you can have, I think this was with Claudette early in the season, where you had a band set up around Slidell and over toward the Mississippi Gulf Coast, but just west a little bit, it was fine. You had some rainfall, but not flooding rains. That could be the case with this. We're going to have to really watch this closely to see where the heaviest rain band's set up. And it's just impossible to predict right now, this far out currently. So it's something we're going to have to watch for and just see, how this happens. And I'm going to just run this latest GFS right now. This is the first time seeing this. Let's see what we're looking at here. And again, it's going to be hard to run that. But again, look where it's initializing from. And again, this is important. This is where the GFS model is initializing from. Is that accurate where the current storm is located? I got to be honest, I have no idea where the center is. We can look at the satellite right here and check out what's happening. And there's a blow up right here of convection. Is that the center? Maybe. It's hard to tell, right? They're flying into it. They're trying to locate it. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that. Angel, I didn't remember Claudette either, actually. I had forgotten the name, and I think Tanya, who was on here earlier, had reminded me what the name was, because I remember there was a storm earlier in the season, and I forgot what it was. Claudette seems like it was 5 years ago at this point. But it was this season, and it caused some flooding in Slidell and the Mississippi Gulf Coast as well, I believe. I'd have to look back, but I'm pretty sure that was a storm that did that. But anyway, it can cause some flooding issues, and I think that's going to be one of the bigger problems with this, because it's a lot of moisture that needs to move north, and it's going to fall on someone. How you doing, Brandy? Good to see you on here. Without water and power, still joining. Thank you, faithful follower of the page. We appreciate that, Brandy, and hopefully, a lot of folks down there in that area, Lafourche, Terrebonne area. That I had this little image still up to kind of show y'all. 116,000 still without power from Ida. Just touch on this really quickly. You can see down there in Terrebonne and Lafourche Parish, dealing with the biggest issues, from the storm. And I don't have any estimation of when that's going to actually be. So definitely thinking about y'all still, as we've gotten power up here. Still a lot of folks recovering from Ida, and will probably take months, if not years, in some areas to recover from the type of hit that y'all got down there. Sad. It's a sad, it was just sad to watch all around. Ida, as it made the approach, it was something I feared could happen. Was hoping to God it didn't, but I remembered last year when we were watching Laura, it just had the same type of feel to me, and it was those last few hours. I hadn't gotten sleep, and I was trying to sleep, and I was like, I can't sleep right now with what's about to happen, and I just tried to get those updates out to you guys. But man, that was that's the type of memory that sticks with you, right? No good. All right, let's see what we have here. See if we have any questions. I'm scared to look at the chat sometimes, to be honest with y'all. What do you think the weather's going to be like on Saturday in Houston? Should be. I mean, this storm should be out of there. Now, I don't know if it's going to cause any flooding at this point. We don't know. But, yeah, I mean, the storm should be out of there. It should be to the east. But, again, I don't know which areas are going to see the most flooding. So we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, the weather is going to be fine in Houston. I don't know if there's going to be any issues as far as water, but hopefully not. Hopefully we don't deal with that, but we'll see. All right, let's see. Ike, Ida, JJ says, yeah, this is a long one. Nicholas, right? No problem, Brittany. Definitely, definitely was trying the best to keep y'all updated during Ida. That was the, since I started this page back in 2013, we have had Laura, we've had Zeta, we've had, Michael, bad storms, Irma. There were a bunch of storms that I've updated about, but Ida was the first southeast Louisiana storm, my home, right where I am, that had been that bad since I had started the page back in 2013. So, and I even told, there were storms in the past where when it was coming, there were things I wanted to say, but was sometimes gun shy to actually say it because I was afraid to bust a forecast. And people come back and tell me, "Hey, you busted that. What the hell's wrong with you?" And I even told my wife as Ida was coming, I'm like, I need to get this message out because this is what I think is going to happen. And if I don't say it, I'm going to regret it. And that's why the post coming up to the storm saying it was going to be a 4 or possibly a 5, 2 or 3 days in advance when the National Hurricane Center was saying a Cat 2, people accuse me of trying to scare people, getting sensationalizing it, getting likes and shares. But to me, it was the truth, and I needed to get the message out and didn't care if I busted it at that point because there were times in the past where I was gun shy in the most important moments. I didn't want to do that this time, but this was the most important storm for this southeast Louisiana area, my home, and a lot of the followers of this page are from this area, and so I just thought it to be necessary to be bold and get messages out that needed to be said. So thank you guys for following, and thank you guys for defending me on that post, but that is the story there, and I'm sticking with it. So yeah, that is, I appreciate it, Tanya. Yeah, Harvey, I forgot all about it, right? Harvey was another one that was a bad one in 2017, and I appreciate y'all following that. Lake Charles as well, Jen. So anyway, with Nicholas, I think we'll have a rainfall issue, and we'll have some surge coming in, but hopefully the wind won't be as much of an issue. Right now, the National Hurricane Center says 65 miles per hour, and that could, hopefully that's what it stays. But again, not an issue like Ida, not perfect conditions. We'll be dealing with some shear, and hopefully we don't see any kind of rapid intensification, but I just don't foresee that at this point. Although a Cat 1 can't be ruled out, but 75 miles per hour, right? That's not going to be much of a difference from what the National Hurricane Center is forecasting right now, which is 65 miles per hour. So let me see here what we got. I'm trying to keep up here with some of the questions here. Thank you, Gwendolyn. I appreciate that. Over there in Humble, Texas. Ike as well. Ike, I hadn't had the page yet, right? I was doing I didn't have his page made yet, but Ike was another one in 08. Gustav was in 08 as well. Isaac, another bad one in 2012, right before I started this actual page. No problem. Carolyn, thank you for that. Thank you, Marianne. Duncan says, I had water in bathtubs because of Jesse's warning. I've been in trouble without that. No water in days. Thanks, Jesse. And piss on those haters. Appreciate that, Duncan. I really do. It's nice to hear that from y'all because there were some people that were not happy with some of the posts I had put out. But one thing y'all notice about this page a lot of times is I don't just blindly follow what the National Hurricane Center says or what local meteorologists saying around the area. I will go against them sometimes, and I don't care. If I see something, I'll say it. If I don't see something, I'll say that too. So, yeah. Humble. Oh, humble. You know what, JJ? I tell you what. There are places in Texas, obviously. I don't know all the pronunciations, and I'm sure there are places in Louisiana where I can tell you that if you try to pronounce them, other people try to pronounce them, they are crazy. I did not realize it was Humble, Texas, so I appreciate you you telling me that. But if I'm not from there, how would I know, right? Yeah, so appreciate that. There were some pretty funny pronunciations, by the way, when it made landfall in Port Fourchon. You should have heard some of the people pronouncing that one when I had to make landfall there. So, yeah. Well, do you think I-10 will be flooded from Lafayette to back? Oh, God, I don't. You know, Patricia, and I've seen a few questions about asking specifics of potential flooding. I really don't know at this point. We're still a little bit of ways out, and these rain bands haven't even started falling yet. Look, I'm hoping. I've seen these things go both ways with these types of systems. I've seen these estimates of rainfall be way off and be lower, or I've seen them be way off. Because remember with Harvey, with Harvey 30-something inches were predicted, and some areas I believe got into the 60s if I'm right. correct me if I'm wrong, but I think some places in Texas got like in excess of 60 inches for Harvey. So they can be off in the lower end too. Like they could be predicting 20, but then you actually get 40, or it can go the other way. So these are tricky because you just don't know where it's going to fall. So I cannot tell you if it's going to be flooded on certain roadways for a certain day. I just can't do that right now. But what I can tell you is that there's going to be a rain risk with this thing, as it moves slowly to the north. Let's see what the GFS is doing here. This is the latest GFS. I have not seen this one yet. Let's just see what happens here. Here it is, David. By the way, I'm just about to look at this. All right, so let's see what this says. Yeah, so GFS takes it in. Let's see. I'm trying to get my. So yeah, let me just go back here. Get my bearings back. So yeah, it was close still to, what is this, Matagorda Bay? I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Yeah, by Matagorda Bay, just west or between Freeport and Rockport, right there. I don't know if there's any major cities in that area, but it does still appear that that's where the GFS is trying to take it. And then it kind of, now remember, now look at the GFS, it gets up to about 994. Elizabeth says, yeah, we got 62 inches for Harvey. That is insane. Gwendolyn, yeah, 50 plus. I mean, that's going to cause issues no matter where you go. Yeah, so no good. Nobody can handle that much rain. So yeah, let's hope that doesn't happen here. All right. So anyway, this goes down to about 994. This is by tomorrow evening, by the way. It's only moving 2 miles per hour, but by tomorrow evening, okay, it is going to start to move a little bit slower toward the end of the forecast. But by tomorrow evening, if this track verifies, we could see a landfall close to, close there to Matagorda Bay or somewhere in that area. And that's what the GFS is indicating. And then we kind of see it just kind of hugging the coast there. Now, it's important to note here, as it moves to the north here, this is where the rain bands will probably be coming in around like the Houston area. And then if you get west of the system, you're going to be better as far as rainfall. You need to get west of the system to be okay from the rainfall. If you're north and east of it, you're going to have some issues. But once you get west of it, you're going to be better. So as it's leading up here by late tomorrow night, this is where we could see some of these storms come into Galveston, the Houston area. Now again, this is if this particular track verifies, right? We could see a couple more plot twists because the center is not well defined right now. But this is the GFS. Again, not gospel. This is just one model run. But if it would take a track like this, you're starting to get rain bands moving in by late tomorrow evening, tomorrow night, probably into Galveston, Houston, all these areas along there, Lake Jackson, and then it continuing probably as we go into the overnight hours, right? There's a nice bullseye just around Houston and close to Galveston. But then as you go into Tuesday afternoon, you're west of there now, and so the rainfall will probably start to decrease. But Louisiana rainfall is increasing now on the eastern side of this by Tuesday afternoon, and it continues to probably be pretty heavy going into Tuesday evening as well. And this is where maybe the concern comes in for portions of Louisiana, is now the system's crawling a little bit, but you can see kind of that tail still bending down into the state. So it's hard to say exactly where the rain is going to fall and who's going to get the most of it, but I can tell you there's an abundant amount of tropical moisture that's going to be moving to the north with the system. You can see it out here. I mean, this is just a lot of mess, and it's not going to be moving very quickly. And it's going to slow down toward the end. So all this needs to come north and fall on someone. So who's going to get the most of it? So that was the latest GFS. The Euro, just to kind of show you this, was way west of where that was. This thing had it making landfall down there, like the Texas-Mexico border there, and then moving inland. Still dropping some rainfall, but again, getting it out of the water faster, and maybe taking a little bit of the core of the moisture out a little bit, but then still slowing down and kind of stopping in this area by Friday. So Euro's way west right now, and we'd have to see a pretty drastic shift in that direction for that to verify. But just to kind of show you the different, models and, what we're seeing there, there's definitely a little bit of, deviation between the two models. I'm trying to see if they're shifting. Kind of confused as to what's going on right now, unless they reran these models in the new forecast plot. I don't know. I'm getting confused because they're getting confused here. As far as where these things, it looks like they might have rerun these models, maybe. Looks like this is where they maybe were originally run from, or this is a new one. I don't know, y'all. This is confusing the heck out of me now, too. So this may be late. I don't know. This would take it inland a little bit sooner if this is actually where the center is, and that would be the same kind of Matagorda Bay area, right? Landfall that we just kind of saw the GFS indicating, and then bending. This is the 48-hour mark. This is around 72, and this is around 96. So you see what happens here. By 24 hours right here, we possibly get a landfall 24 hours from now, tomorrow night, and then a bend here north of Houston. Now, if these tracks would verify, these would not be the best scenario for this area, because if you get a track that comes in like this, or I'm sorry, that's a little bit too much, but a track that comes in like this and keeps, Houston, Galveston all on the eastern side. Remember, even as it's bending this way, you're going to have these bands moving in on the eastern side of it. So if it did take a track like this, and I don't know if they've rerun these models, maybe with the new plot, that may have been what happened right here. But these are back west a little bit. So, yeah. No problem, Amanda. I appreciate that. Thank you. This one's confusing me a little bit because they can't find a low-level center, so we're getting models all over the place at this point. So let me bottom line it for you. This is the National Hurricane Center's 10 p.m. cone, okay? And what we're seeing here is something very similar, or at least close to what the GFS was indicating just now. By the time we get into late tomorrow night, or this is indicating by about Tuesday at 7 a.m. right here, is we have this is Matagorda Bay, right in this area, and we have a landfall or something close to making landfall right there. But you see these plots right here is they start to get clustered together a little bit. 7 p.m., 7 a.m. Wednesday, 7 p.m. Wednesday. So from right here to right here, that's 24 hours. And this may be, actually starting a little bit sooner. Probably from Tuesday at 7 a.m. till Wednesday at 7 p.m. This would probably be the period of time where we could see some flooding happening somewhere. Not sure exactly where yet, but when you get plots from there and they just don't move that much, remember, you have a tropical system that's going to still be out there, still has that source of energy from the Gulf and unlimited moisture tap. We're going to have a lot of rainfall falling somewhere, and it's just not going to be moving very quickly, and so that's where the flooding potential does come into play there. This is the European model estimates. And there were some areas in here, I was kind of looking over these numbers a little bit, but there were some pockets in here that predicted like 30 inches. I don't know if you can see that in your screen right there, but like 30.64 inches possible of rainfall. All these darker brown colors are 15 or higher. There's some pockets of 20-something inches, 30 inches in here somewhere, even stretching into southwest Louisiana, 10 to 15 inches in some spots. So, yeah. And any shifts left or right can move these, can move these numbers. But you see, the European was kind of on the higher end that I saw there, but there are some areas here. And just remember, depending on where the tracks come, either left or right a little bit, we can see these bigger numbers shift in that direction too. But I think the point to take out of it is that there are models that are predicting in excess of 30 inches in some areas from this. So hopefully that does not verify. David's asking about the Canadian model, and this was from the 12Z run. I don't know if that was the latest one. This goes in, this is kind of similar to the Euro, where it comes in a little bit near the Texas-Mexico border there and comes in a little bit while dropping rainfall across Texas. So that's kind of similar there. As far as the H-Wharf model, this is what we had from that. Getting close to the coast tomorrow afternoon, close to Matagorda Bay there, moving inland by tomorrow night. And all that moisture there, still dropping some rainfall by Tuesday morning, and then drifting off and kind of out of here by Thursday. Similar, right? Again, doesn't really intensify it too much, but you kind of get the point with this system. It's a messy one out there. It's not very well developed. At this point, we do see kind of a bubble up here at the end of the loop of convection. Is that the center of circulation? Not sure yet, right? They're still flying in and out of this thing. I'm not sure if that's the center. They're not sure if we have a good center right now. They really haven't identified it, if there is one. But we'll see what they say. We'll see what they keep saying as they fly into this thing, and see if they can locate a well-defined center of circulation. Once we have that, we can identify how fast it's moving a little bit better, and we can take the models a little bit more serious. But right now, it's just a lot of tropical moisture out there, and not a very well, not a very well developed tropical system. I haven't brought the candles back, JJ. I had that one night. It was actually last year on 9/11. It was on September 11th. We were tracking something else last year. I don't remember which one it was. Somebody thought it was a memorial for the 9/11 anniversary, but it was not. It was Tropics After Dark. It was the intimate setting for Tropics After Dark. So I have not brought him back since then, so we'll see. Yeah, so we're seeing some kind of ebbs and flows from the satellite imagery right now. And when you see the pulsing that happens with these storms, remember when you have a well-developed system, you can see the center of circulation, and you have storms wrapping around an apparent circulation. Right now, we are seeing just some different pulses around the center, right? We see a blow up, we see another one here, we see, so do we get the consistency moving forward with this? Do we get a low-level center that's well-defined? Not sure yet. But right now, we just don't have it. Could this be it? Maybe in this area? We're seeing that toward the end of the loop there. Maybe that is a little center. Maybe we're seeing some storms firing, around the center. Are we talking about the bay? What is the blow up in the bay? Are we talking about down here? Just some random convection down there, probably. It's just some storms firing down there. I don't, loosely associated kind of with this, I guess, but just a little tropical moisture, but that's not really associated with, what the heck is that? With what's going on there with Nicholas. Center is probably somewhere closer to that, might be closer to where this is right here. If you look back at the National Hurricane Center where they had this tracked, this is where they had it at 10 p.m. So what is that like? It's hard to really tell. Let's go back to this, and that's still a little bit north. They have the center down here on their plot probably. So it's probably still dealing with some wind shear, and we'll continue to do that. So we'll see that. We'll see if that happens tomorrow, if we get a more well-defined circulation. We don't want it. We don't want this thing to develop. We hope the shear affects it the entire way, which is a scenario that it could happen. So hopefully that is the case. Let's see. Did I get all the images here? Or I'll get through all of the images. Let's see. Just in case you're joining a little bit late here, this is the latest on the latest cone from National Hurricane Center. You can see a lot of rain that still has to move north with this, and again, it's going to start crawling toward the end of the forecast, which becomes an issue when talking about the potential for flooding. So that's something that we'll have to just keep a close watch on. But this is where the National Hurricane Center had it plotting. If you zoom in a little bit, this spot right here was the 4 p.m. spot, the one to the north, and this was the 10 p.m. spot. So just to kind of summarize, they are having trouble locating a well-defined center, and so they had it earlier. They thought they did, and then at 10 p.m. they said, oh, well, no, here's a center down to the south a little bit more. Will we see it again shift? We see it relocate again, maybe more west, maybe more east, maybe more north, maybe so. We'll see tomorrow what happens. So just to kind of summarize, there's the latest cone from National Hurricane Center. Going to get close to the Texas coast as we go into tomorrow, or late tomorrow night, early Tuesday possibly. Could it stay offshore? Maybe. Could it go inland sooner? Possibly. Biggest threat from this, though, we'll have some storm surge moving in, we'll have some rainfall moving in, and some flash flooding potential with this, okay? So something we're going to have to keep a close eye on, especially live as we get closer, to see where those biggest rain bands are going to set up. But, folks, you can see where the tropical storm warnings are issued. That's the areas in blue for the tropical storm warnings. And there are some pink areas in here under the tropical storm. If you can kind of see that color, those are hurricane watches. And remember, we're going to see this storm. It's predicted right now to get up to 65 miles per hour by the National Hurricane Center. That's only 10 away or 9 away from from a hurricane. So that's why they have issued a hurricane watch for those areas. So we'll see what happens. Let's see here what we're getting. I'm looking to see. They're in the storm right now, Gwendolyn, by the way. They're currently actually in the storm right now. I'm kind of looking at trying to see what it's so confusing and what they're actually seeing. Are they trying to see where they're flying into it and what they're identifying as a potential center of circulation? Let's see. Let me take it here and kind of show you what I'm looking at here in the aircraft recon. So this is what I'm looking at right here as far as the flight's going. I'm just trying to see what they're seeing. See these red barbs here. That's winds that are maybe a little bit higher. Or is this upper level? I'm trying to see what they're looking at. That's flight level winds. They have a plot here and they have a plot down here. So I'm trying to see if this was from earlier or if this is what's happening right now. Either they've relocated the center back to the north or this was from earlier and they've relocated it down here to the south. But they're getting some reading. Here's the plane right here. But they're getting some readings here of higher wind speeds. So let's wait and see what they're finding. Gwendolyn, they should give us an update back by 1 a.m. and see what they're finding and see what the motion looks like and see what the plot looks like as well. So what I'll do here is I'm going to write down this plot and y'all can do it as well. 22.5 north and 95.5 west at 10 p.m. Let's see what the plot says at 1 a.m. 40 mile per hour winds north at 2 miles per hour at the 10 p.m. and 40 miles per hour as far as the winds go. All right, so let's see what the recon's finding. Let's see what they show us for the the motion. Yeah, that's what I thought too, David. I was just kind of hoping that wasn't the case because that's what I was kind of thinking too about that recent plot. If that's the case, then they relocated it back to the north possibly, which is just getting silly at this point. But that's what I was thinking too. That the latest plot, I didn't want to believe it that they had found the center down there, but maybe have relocated the center back to the north, and maybe finding the strongest winds there to the east of the center there, which may be stronger than 40 miles per hour by now. So we'll see what they say. If that's the case, maybe the center is relocated back north, and we have stronger winds for the 1 a.m. update. So that's the latest on I was about to call it Ida, on Nicholas, Tropical Storm Nicholas right now. So again, be prepared for rainfall, be prepared for changing scenarios as we go forward in the next day or so. Again, this is a tricky one because we don't have really anything solid right now, but that's the latest on Tropical Storm Nicholas. I'll keep you all updated on the page as far as what they're finding, the recon's finding. If what we're reading is accurate, they might have stronger winds out there, and we might actually have a stronger or a center relocation back to the north. So let's see what they find. I'll update y'all on the page for that latest update to from the National Hurricane Center once they do update. All right, y'all. Thanks for joining for this Tropics After Dark. I'll continue to keep y'all updated on Tropical Storm Nicholas right now. It's trying to get stronger, dealing with some wind shear right now, but it possibly has some stronger winds right now. But I'll update y'all once that new update comes in from the National Hurricane Center. So everybody keep watching. Thank y'all for following this page. Thank y'all for joining for this Tropics After Dark. And again, stay with the page, and I'll update y'all in the next couple of hours as to what the National Hurricane Center is looking at. So thank y'all, and stay with the page and share this video if you'd like to. Otherwise, stay safe, have a good night, and be ready to see some updates coming up in the next hour or so. Good night, everyone.